Hi, friends. Hello, the world. Welcome to this episode of Complaint Free Life. And today I want to talk to you a very specific humanitarians who are going through very specific situation. I already wrote a post about it, but I want to go into details of what I mean and how I mean. So, if you are not that humanitarian who I'm talking to, no worries. You can listen to how you could solve this problem, or you can come back in the next episode to to listen to other themes. So, the topic that I want to talk to you about is the humanitarians who are now constantly frustrated, constantly irritated by other colleagues saying things in meetings, saying that, oh my God, I have to tolerate this person, or I can't believe that I'm sitting here for 2 hours and listening to this person. It just doesn't make sense. What am I even doing here? I wanted to leave a long time ago and I didn't do that, and then getting frustrated with ourselves, or overworking in the middle of the night writing the report because you feel like no one else did their part, so you feel very resentful and you're writing it, and as you're writing it you are like just thinking, oh my God, how can this possible that I'm the one who always needs to do this. Others are home with their families, and I'm here in the middle of the night finishing this as if it's only needed for me. And I can't believe I'm doing this, and I want to leave, but um, I can't. Right? So if you are in this situation, I feel like or many of us have been there. If you are not, maybe that's a great news. I remember very specific, vivid memories of these situations as well in the past when I was a humanitarian, and I would be sitting there and thinking, looking at that person, for instance, looking at one person who's rebelling in the meeting where lots of people are sitting, and that person is rebelling, saying that this is not how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to do this. We're supposed to do that, and then other people sitting there and feeling like this battle doesn't make sense. I don't want to do this. What am I even doing, right? So those are the situations that I remember vividly from my experience as well. So if you're experiencing all of that and you always tell yourself that I just have to leave, but I can't, or I want to leave, but I can't, right? So if you are in this situation where you're putting yourself in um, this is what I want to do, but I can't, so I have to keep doing it. So you're forcing yourself to be in the situation because you're believing that you can't do that. I want to talk to these fellow humanitarians. I hear you. And I just want to say that I have been there as well. And what I always tell people is that the best way to leave any situation is not when you're trying to avoid it, when you're trying to just get away from this and just have that relief, and then feeling like, oh my God, finally I got out. I can't believe that I've done this, and then keep those frustrations, keep those resentment about those people that we avoided, and then keep being in that mode of the only way I can get out it is if I escape it, or the only way I can get out of the situation is if I hate everyone, if I resent everything, and then it's faster for me to leave it. Don't do that to yourself if you can, because what will happen is that once we leave and then we keep marinating in our own story of this was bad, that was bad, I can't believe people did that, this is how it is, and then keep being in that story instead of moving forward, instead of deciding what to do next. right? So if you can, all I'm saying is don't avoid it. But if you're in this situation where you constantly keep getting irritated, constantly keep getting frustrated, and you don't have any capacity to process all of this frustration, all of this, what's going on, and you feel like as long as you are in that environment, you won't be able to process it, or you won't be able to um, help yourself because you just feel so tired and exhausted, or you don't have time to process it and all of this, then at the same time, if you are feeling like you can't really decide because you need to take care of the family back home, so you need money, or you need to, because you think that it's so hard, because you think that it's in your age or in your situation, finding another job is almost impossible of the same level or the same caliber, or you might be saying that you don't actually know what to do. So if these are the reasons why you are not leaving, why you are not making decision, then let's here and now work on it. So the way that you're going to work on it is that, so if you're believing that it's hard outside of the humanitarian world, it's not any better. So let's think about how you're going to handle it. How are you going to handle that hard situation outside or a similar situation outside? How are you handling now? Because if you're not handling now, and if you're just sitting there and keep frustrating, obviously your brain will not believe you. If you're going to leave and face another similar situation, you may as well stay there, right? So that's absolutely understandable. Our brains are very clever. So your brain is cleverly saying that if this situation will be similar in other places, what's the point of transitioning? And that's a very valid question. So, if that's the argument that you're getting from your brain, then absolutely. How are you going to handle that situation now that you are in? How are you going to reduce that frustration? How are you going to uh, reduce your judgment of other people? Because all of those frustrations are coming from your thought or belief that they're supposed to be this way and they're not, right? So that you're judging them, and that's absolutely normal. Many people, all of us have that automatic reaction usually, but it doesn't have to be that way, right? So automatic reaction is only the default reaction, meaning that we just happen to often react to things like this is how it's supposed to be. This is not how it's supposed. This is not how it is. So therefore, it's wrong, right? So as long as you keep believing that it's wrong and they're not supposed to, then obviously you keep being frustrated. So if you want to reduce that at least, then you need to find a way to stop judging them or judging them less. Meaning that if they're behaving in that way, they're behaving because that's how they behave, right? This is how they are. I behave this way, and this is how I am. Not in the way of I'm better than them or I'm smarter or whatever, right? So we don't need to do that. We don't need to what's the word I'm looking for? We don't need to put ourselves into the pedestal to feel better. Absolutely not. It's just that we are so many different human beings, and human beings happen to behave in so many different ways, right? So, one of the things that my client was telling me recently that she went to Ukraine to take up an assignment, and she told me that as soon as she arrived, like within the first week, no one told her what to do because of the war, obviously. And she tried to understand what's going on. Of course, she's been reading, but she wanted to be useful and helpful immediately. And people seem to be all busy, and they keep telling her that everyone is so busy, they have so much work to do. But then when she asks what the actual work that she can do, no one seems to be able to tell her. And then she was telling me, how is that possible? It's so chaotic. People are supposed to at least tell me where their problems are, or where I can help. But if they're not even telling, and everyone's so busy, and everyone tells me that they're so busy, but they don't even tell me what to do, and then they hired me, it doesn't make sense. And right, so it's very easy to get frustrated in that situation, and I totally get it. I've been in those situations many times. But the reality of our lives is that in such a magnitude of war, but in any other similar situation, I think it seems the case, it's the observation that people are so busy and they don't even have time to tell us what to do, even though they did hire us. And what if, instead of getting frustrated, what if we thought to ourselves, this is how it is, this is how things are. If things are not like that, that's amazing. We get so excited and we want to praise them for how organized they are, and how they immediately knew what to tell me and what to ask from me and how to task me, and that's amazing. But if it's not, that's how it is now. So taking that in situations like this is how it's going to be, or this is how it's supposed to be. So instead of getting so frustrated about that colleague who rebels at the big meetings, instead of keep judging him or her, instead of saying how ridiculous or how all of this, what if we just decided to reduce that amount of frustration to say, this is how she is, or this is how he is. This is how the situation is. And let me think of, how am I going to handle it? Right? So let me think of, how am I going to show up in that situation? Let me think of, do I want to keep being frustrated? Because I'm assuming that keep being frustrated about the situation is not going to change. And in other circumstances, if we leave that job and go to something else, and probably we will meet people like that. And again, if we keep getting frustrated, we're not going to focus on our job. We're not going to really do all the things because we need to calm down after all of this frustration. We will probably not have a good relationship with that person, which might be vital for our work. And we will be just adding to that frustration. Like, probably everyone else is already frustrated and we're adding to that, and then no one is really talking about it, but or maybe they're talking about it outside of the meeting room, like individually behind the doors. But even then, what use is that if we're not able to talk to that person directly and say, hey, this is not constructive, let's have a constructive conversation? If no one is doing that, and if you're not prepared to do that for whatever reason, then ask yourself, is it really useful to keep being frustrated and to keep judging that person, and you keep using that person as a reason why you need to leave? Right? Because the reason why you probably want to leave is something different. You're probably using that person as an additional reason why you want to leave, which again does not really make sense, right? So if you're really honest with yourself, what is the reason why you are wanting to leave? And don't use those situations as a reason, as an additional reason to leave, because it may not really be useful. And so ask yourself, how are you going to deal with those type of situations? How are you going to reduce your own frustration? And how are you going to stop judging that person or judge that person less, so that you can concentrate on your own work, concentrate on how are you going to deal with such situations, so that in the future, when you do transition and face similar situations, you know what to do, right? Instead of avoiding. That way, your brain will not be saying that it's going to be hard somewhere, but it will be more like, yes, I know how to deal, or I know what to do in those situations. I know how to find solutions for myself, or I know how to find solution for this type of relationship, and this is how I'm going to deal with it. So another argument that your brain might be having is the money story, right? Or that you cannot find that money, or you cannot replicate that money, or the privileges and other things that come with your job currently, you may not be able to replicate it somewhere else. If that's the reason why are you not leaving now or making a decision, then ask yourself, how are you going to replicate it outside of the city? Right? So that's more of a useful question rather than keep indulging in, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this, I'm not going to be able to do that, therefore I may as well stay. Because if you want to stay, again, be honest and say, no, I decided to stay, or I want to stay because I really want to deal with all the difficulties that this job offers, but at the same time, I will be enjoying all the other things that I love, right? So just don't, all I'm saying, I guess, is don't sit on two chairs. If you know the expression, meaning that don't be like, I actually want to do this, but I have to do this, so I can't. Don't put yourself into this victim mindset of I can't help it but. So instead, decide that no, actually, I want to leave, but I'm too scared, or I don't want to deal with whatever the issues that it does. So I will stay here and dealing with the things that I know already what's going to face me, or what challenges I will be having. Right. So that's why if your brain is saying that I can't replicate the money, the privileges, and all the other things outside of this setting, then ask yourself, how are you going to do that? Instead of, I can't do this, I can't do that. And whenever you put your mind to that focus of solving the problem, your brain will be saying, well, who do you think you are? How can you really replicate? Are you crazy? No one is earning that much money outside. I will have to pay the taxes and all the other things. So it's not possible. If your brain is saying that, then even go further to question that. And all of your brain's messages might be coming from you just not trusting yourself, right? Because you might be believing that whatever the job you're doing now, you got there very hard, so it's difficult to do that again. Or you might be believing it was a luck, so you can't really let go of that luck. But what if all of that was created by you and you know how to create it again? So what if you allowed yourself to trust that you can actually do those impossible sounding things, even though in reality it's not impossible, but your brain will be like presenting it that way, right? And that's normal. My brain used to present it that way as well. And here I am replicating my salary, right? So it's absolutely normal that your brain will be doing that. In those moments, ask yourself, if you trusted yourself that if you created this level of success, if you consider that success, then how am I going to create this type of success again? And don't forget that do that by doing the work that you love and not just replicating the salary for the sake of it. Because if you're going to go out of this and going to something else and doing it just for the sake of money, you will not like it and you will want to transition again. And that probably might be something that your brain will say, well, we already did that and it's hard. So why would you do that? And then you want to force yourself again to be in that situation that you may not like because the purpose might be missing of why you're doing what you're doing. That's why don't do that to yourself. So instead, allow yourself to seek the job that you want to do outside of the humanitarian world if you're wanting to leave. Allow yourself to go for what you really love and earn money with that the way you want to. And your brain will be asking you or telling you that it's impossible, no one is doing it, da 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 da. Ignore those noises. Instead, ask yourself, how are you going to make that happen? Because my brain will be was always telling me that, well, you are from a developing country. You should be very thankful that you have this job even in the first place. You created all of this and now you're about to leave. What crazy person does that? No one in Kyrgyzstan would do that. Or if you left this, then no one would hire you, and I didn't want to be hired, so that's great. So be prepared that your brain will be saying all of those things, but you always keep bringing your brain to the solutions of how am I going to do that? How am I going to solve that? How am I going to trust myself so that I can actually go for what I love and being paid the money I want to? Right? So don't look at outside to other evidences because they're not going to help most of the time because everyone's situation is different. And you will be just probably using that against yourself instead of looking inwards to say, okay, I have done this work. I'm leaving it because these are the things that I'm not liking or I don't want to like. And I don't want to change my mind about it because it's against my values, against my principles, or whatever it is. So therefore, I'm leaving it. So obviously, I'm not going to leave to something that I again need to tolerate, or I again need to be fixing, or I again need to be working on my mind. I want to go to something that I love, right? So that's the transitioning that makes sense because if we're just changing from one situation to another and we're just need to tolerate things or be frustrated about things again, it doesn't make sense. So therefore, approach all of this from the from the place of trusting yourself and asking yourself, if I trusted myself and if I believed in my abilities that I can create the same level of success somewhere else that I'm really wanting to be, then how am I going to do that? And these are the ways, these are the plans that I could do to try things out. And then your brain will be saying, yes, you will fail. Yes, it's a very much a possibility. I'm not gonna lie, I failed so many times. Especially in those times when I failed, I reminded myself, this is what I chose to do. It's not like someone put me here. It's not like someone told me, well, Estelle, you have to do this because you didn't want to do this, right? I chose it. So, and then I used to remind myself that I chose to do this, but also I love doing it and I want to continue doing it. Even if I fail, it doesn't stop me. Yes, it sucks. Yes, I don't want to fail, but I do. And that's just how I learn. It's just with languages in my case, right? So I always have this reference to learning languages. When I learn any language, any new language, I fail like so often that I don't even take count of how many times I fail, meaning that I make so many mistakes, people laugh at me, or they will say why she's even doing it, or whatever, whatever, or I will be telling myself, why am I even doing it, and all kinds of things. I don't want to be doing it. This is a total failure. I go through all of that. And then at some point, after keep working on it, I go to the others. The same with this journey. So, and the last point that I want to bring your attention to is when your brain says, well, you don't really know what you want, right? So that could be a very valid, again, reasoning why you're not making a decision. Now, whenever we do that, I feel like oftentimes my humanitarians that I love, I feel like my humanitarians oftentimes think like it's something that can't be fixed. Have you noticed? It's a bit like, yeah, I don't know what I will be doing. Even if I wanted to leave this, I don't know what I will be doing. I feel like it's something that we believe that we can't control. It's like telling the news, but this is our belief, right? This is what we're believing to be true. This is something that we're in now, but it doesn't mean that it can't be changed. It just means that this is where we're now. If we want to be somewhere else, we start getting curious and explore. That's like the obvious thing, obvious, as well. The question is why you're not doing it, right? And probably the reason why you're not doing it is because your brain is probably sabotaging you by saying that if you do know what you're going to do, you will leave, and leaving might be dangerous. And because leaving might be dangerous, I just keep you here safe and keep telling you the story that you don't know what you're going to do. And that's normal as well, so don't get frustrated. So, if you don't know what you're doing, or sorry, if you don't know what you're going to be doing if you transition, get curious as to what could that be. Even if you don't need to make a decision to leave now, which is absolutely fine, get curious as to what you're going to do after you leave, or if you decide to leave, then get curious. You don't need to take them up now. Just get curious. So you will probably have first the list of all the things you don't want to do. If that helps, amazing. Elimination always helps. And then start getting curious as to what you actually want to do. And start probing or start experimenting with that while you're working. And then start exploring what would that be like to start working on that. And then allow your brain to take one step at a time to go towards that direction. Right? So if you've seen that with this episode, all I wanted to advocate for is don't be in the unknown. Even where you are now in your current circumstance, don't let yourself be in the unknown or be in the constant frustration of, I wanted to leave, but I can't, or I want to do this, but I can't. Don't do that to yourself. It just is not useful, because that will just keep creating more frustration that you're actually not wanting. And it will keep creating more thoughts of what to do and not to do and how to do, and then never making a decision. So instead, don't do that. Decide for yourself internally. You don't need to say anyone. Just decide, do I want to leave or do I want to stay? If I want to leave, these are the reasons. I am not satisfied with this. I don't think this is the right thing to do. Whatever the reasons are, these are the reasons I want to leave. Right? These are the reasons I want to leave, but I'm believing that I don't have options, or I'm believing that it's hard. I'm believing that I won't be able to replicate. I'm believing this and this. And then look at how you're going to solve for that while working. I'm going to solve this hard things this way. I'm going to solve the money issue this way. I'm going to solve this way because I know that I can do this, because I know I can trust myself, because trusting myself is the option I always have. Even though my brain tells me otherwise, you can always trust yourself or choose to trust. I know it's going to be very difficult. I always think of like trusting yourself as like that situation where, I think I told you this example many times. I will say it again, just to show the difficulty, right? So someone comes to me and says that your partner is cheating on you, right? And in that moment, the trust comes very high in terms of, do I trust this statement or not? I could go and start shouting at my partner saying, how is it possible? Da, 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 da. Or I could choose that I know my partner, I know what he or she is capable of. I trust that he or she is not capable of this, but if he or she did, I trust that they will come to me and tell me. In the meantime, I choose trust. It's going to be very difficult, but considering all of the other things, I'm choosing to trust. That's the ability that's going to get us to any dreams that we want. My friends, I have done it. I'm doing it. I'm currently doing it. And I really want you to do that too. I really want you not to be sitting in these two chairs, as I said, of indecision or in the unknown, but rather deciding that this is how you're going to solve it, this is how you're going to do it, because you have the abilities to be making the impact in the ways that you love, to be living the life you want to be living the life with your loved ones, to be living the life in the places you want to, and to be so proud of yourself for choosing to trust yourself and going your own path and doing the things that you love and making the impact you love and getting the results of that and saying, I'm so proud that I decided. I'm so proud that I did this. And that's what I want for you. Because I have been doing this now for almost 2 years. Well, one year and 8 months. I know that I'm still in the beginning of my journey, and I know that there will be lots more situations where I'll be failing and miserable. But I also know that I know how to trust myself, and I know how to get through those miserable times, those failures, those mistakes, because I love what I do. And I love where I live. I love how I live my life. I love how I'm in charge of my life and my time. And I would love for you to experience that instead of spending your time on getting frustrated about things that you probably can't control. Instead, spend time and energy on things that you love doing and you want to do more of. Okay, my friends, have an amazing weekend and talk to you next Friday.